There's always lurkers. Gutshot the Bob, thank you very much for your continued support. 8 months is a long time, and I really appreciate it. Alright, let's go ahead and get started, folks. Hello, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes, and that is what we are going to be playing today. This is a donation deck list from Innistrad Revenue Service, and it is relatively stock D&T here. There's a couple of flex slot choices you can always make in D&T, but everything that's here should really not be surprising. So just to highlight some of the individual card choices. So this list is going to have 23 lands, running the third Caracas in a flex slot. As far as the main deck goes, excuse me, they've cut down on Phyrexian Revoker in order to make room for a couple more silver bullets. So there's a Remorseful Cleric for some graveyard hate. There's the third Recruiter in the main deck. Then we see Spirit Keeper, Double Crusader, Prelate, and Jailer rounding things out. The sideboard is relatively stock stuff. We're on the Chalice of the Void plan, and there's another Sanctum Prelate to kind of fight against the combo decks. I don't really have too much to say about the list. This is a relatively stock D&T deck list. The third Recruiter doesn't usually see main deck play, but it's totally reasonable if you're expecting a bunch of control. And Remorseful Cleric is probably on the borderline of being good and playable. It steals a lot of game ones from certain decks, notably decks like Dredge and Lands can sometimes really run over you with the accumulated value from the graveyard, and this is great against those sorts of decks. It's only sort of medium against a deck like Red-Black Reanimator because it is a 2-drop, and most of the time you're going to be tutoring for it, so it's not necessarily the be-all end-all answer versus that. But if they have kind of a slow start, or you slow them down with Thalia, it can be great. All right, so sort of before I get started here, I just want to highlight 2 new things about Cardboard Live. So if you click on any card on the extension, you now have the opportunity to buy that card from Card Kingdom and support me while you are doing it. So Cardboard Live has sort of gotten everything a go on that side of things. So you can now buy cards in order to support me. So if you've ever considered pulling the trigger on D&T, you can throw a little coin my way while you do it. The second thing is that Cardboard Live also has a bot that is in chat now. That functions very similarly to the MTG bot. So you can type !card space whatever card name you want, and then Cardboard Live will go and whisper you what that card is. So just to show off the sort of different functionality with MTG bot, if I type in /card lightning bolt, it puts it in the chat. And Cardboard Live will also message it to you. So if you want to directly buy a card that's not available on say my deck list, that's a way that you can do so. So if you decide you want to buy 100 copies of Virtue's Ruin and do it through my stream so I get credit for that, you can. Not that anyone ever would troll me with Virtue's Ruin, Calum. You know what you did. It was great, though. All right. Also on the list of kind of cool things coming up, I have some new Thalia art being commissioned. My friend Gail is working on it. It's awesome. I've seen the preview. I'm really excited about it. All right. Okay, so I said I was going to get started, but I'm a liar, as you know. I think I want to play some of this tomorrow. I've been looking at Matt Soul's sweet like pseudo-cleric tribal deck, and I'm very intrigued about this deck. I don't really know that it's better than D&T, but it seems really cool, and I want to try this out. Of course, yes. So I'm gonna be out of town over the weekend, so I think I'm gonna try to do like a Thursday late afternoon, early evening stream when I get off of work. So I'm gonna shoot just like come home, grab a snack, and then like try to jam a league with this after dinner. So it'll probably be about 4:15 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, and I'll jam with this and see how it goes. And again, thank you to Innistrad Revenue Service for donating to support the stream and make this list happen on stream. And of course, obviously, like any great deck, split between plains and snow-covered plains. Strong. Snow-covered plains, plains. Strong. So life's going well on my end. This weekend I'll be going to Greensboro. I go there every month or 2 months, something like that, with a handful of the Star City Games crew. And we go and we play a bunch of like Japanese rhythm games and such. So generally, after everyone gets off of work on Friday, we drive down, and it's only like 2 hours or so. We drive down, have dinner, and then we go to this place called Round One, which is super sweet. It's sort of like a bowling alley, arcade, nerd haven sort of place where you can also get some bad food and okay beer. But they stay open like surprisingly late. Like I think we got kicked out of there at like 2 in the morning or something like that. So it's just been like a really cool place to like go and hang out for a few hours. Play some like DDR, Groove Coaster, Rock Band, Musica, Poppin', all sorts of goodies are there for the taking. I'm a sucker for those Japanese rhythm games. Something about like the inner perfectionist in me just like really enjoys getting better at those games. And every time we do this, we visit 2 different places. So then on Saturday afternoon, we go to the Lost Ark, which is sort of like a family-owned GameStop sort of thing that has a really solid arcade in the back. All right, so I'm on the draw here with what is probably a medium hand. This doesn't go back. We're really hoping to be playing against like a Delver deck that doesn't have a Wasteland with a hand like this one. We're very fair. If this is something like Miracles, double Stoneforges, okay, not the greatest, but okay. This hand can be improved by a lot of things. So we're looking for like Vile, Thalia, another white source. Even just a 3-drop non-white card would be fine. So this is sort of an interesting turn Because, like, realistically, I could just, like, play port, tap port, play Vial. But I think if my opponent is playing a deck like Miracles, I might just, like, be walking directly into Counterspell. So I should probably save this for one turn later when I can, like, play a Stoneforge and my Vial. So I'll play out the Stoneforge here. One way or another, I don't expect this to impact the game meaningfully. It's either going to get, like, countered or removed once it hits play. That's just, like, kind of what I'm expecting here. Pitching a Flusterstorm. So we could be looking at something like Show and Tell here. So, like, we don't mind the Stoneforge getting countered, right? Like, that is in no way relevant to, like, the rest of our hand. Like, we don't really care about losing that. It was our expectation that we would lose it, and we have another one. But I am still slightly nervous that I'm not confident in what my opponent is playing at this time. If they're forcing the Stoneforge, then maybe it's not actually something like Show and Tell. Now that I just, like, kind of think more about it. The lands that I'm seeing here are a little bit weird. I'm starting to think it might just be, like, High Tide. That's my current guess. Yeah, alright. I'm wrong. Alright, original guess of Sneak was correct. So we're just going to get, like, Sneak Attack blown out here. So this is an annoyance, but I'm, like, certainly not dead here. Never mind. I'm dead here. So to just, like, talk about the opener again for 1 minute, we did want to play against, like, a fair deck with this hand. Like, we kept a hand on the back of, like, the Stoneforge Mystics, and that was just, like, not good against what my opponent had going on here. And that's fine. No regrets on the keep or anything like that. Okay, so what am I gonna want? Chalices are good. Jailer solid. Prelate's great. Council's Judgment and Relic Warder are fine. Surgical and Path fall into the category of, like, maybe I'll play one of these if, like, the rest of the main deck is, like, just absolutely abysmal. So we'll probably end up cutting most or all of our swords. If we keep anything around, it just would be to hedge against Arcane Artisan specifically, which is a little bit annoying. A lot of times I'll do something like cut Jitte in this matchup and trim or cut some Mother of Runes. It's just, like, not a particularly impactful card in the matchup. It can protect some Hate Bears, but, like, it's just really not where you want to be in this matchup. Most of the time it just ends up, like, turning sideways as a 1/1, and that's very, very anemic for this deck. So Master, we lost game 1. This is game 1 of the first match. So, Innistrad Revenue Service, if we just, like, kind of think about their deck, they're very cantrip heavy, right? So, like, Chalice smacking them around is pretty good. So we're sitting at 59 right now, so we can think about like surgical and or path to come in. Neither one is particularly good. Surgicals can get cute if they have like the oh, totally blanking on the name. Search your deck for 3 cards, you get one of them, the other 2 go into the graveyard. Super embarrassing that I forgot this. Intuition, there we go. Intuition is the name of the card I was thinking of. I can play one path to go and round it out. I can also just like drop a Mirran Crusader to play another path. Path's probably better than Swords in this matchup, just because like Swordsing a Grizzlebrand is a terrible trade, whereas pathing a Grizzlebrand is just a bad trade. And in a pinch, you can like path your own creatures as a weird ramp spell. So in this matchup, I tend to sandbag the Caracas for as long as I feel like it is safe to do so. If by removal spells you mean like removal spells attached to creatures, then like yes, that's true. Like Relic Warder and Palace Jailer are quite good. However, like something like Swords to Plowshares is very medium. Yeah, like using a Path to Exile in a matchup like this one is not really where you want to be. But you do absolutely need to respect the opposing creatures. Like Arcane Artisan in particular is really annoying because it walks around a lot of other hate that the deck has. So, for example, Arcane Artisan ignores Chalice, it ignores Containment Priest. That's tricky. Alright, what happened with this Ponder? That was a Shuffle Ponder. Good news for Phil fans. Again, we're going to sandbag the Caracas for a little while. And this is where we sort of like have to make an active choice about what we're going to go and do with this recruiter. There's a couple of options. Option 1 is like recruiter for Sanctum Prelate. Option 2 is recruiter for like Leon and Relic Warder. Option 3 is recruiter for Jailer. So Relic Warder would beat like Land Show and Tell Omniscience. And we're relatively safe against creatures right now since we have Caracas. If my opponent like puts in a show and tell creature or a sneak attack, in the short term we can beat that. So I'm much more worried about an enchantment coming in. At the same time, if my opponent does not have show and tell for Omniscience, then maybe getting Sanctum Prelate is just better. Because like putting it on 3 is a relatively lights out play for this deck, especially considering that I have the Caracas next. I'm going to get the Relic Warder. I think I'm favored if this game goes a little bit longer, and the lines that I'm most scared of all involve omniscience. Yeah, so if my opponent were to cast Show and Tell that turn, I might just put in Caracas and be super cheeky. The Relic Warder is essentially me saying, like, your enchantments are no good, find a new plan. So, for example, if they Brainstorm and then fetch, some things like Omniscience might be going away. And I really don't want all these Wastelands right now. This is no bueno. So I could just, like, cast Leon and Relic Warder and, like, use it to nug their Lotus Petal. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but it's probably just too ambitious. Again, I'm relatively well insulated against, like, sneak attack for creatures or, like, show and tell in a creature. So I just need to not lose to Omniscience right now. Blood Moon's interesting. So I will take this opportunity to Wasteland them, while that's still a land. And then I'm fine with Blood Moon resolving. All right. So I can Council's Judgment away the Blood Moon. And what would punish me for that? Ancient Tomb, Sneak Attack, and Creature, all three would punish me for that. I can just Council's Judgment away Lotus Petal. Which is anemic. So if they just go land Sneak Attack, I don't care about them doing that. The only way I'm scared for tapping out is if they have Ancient Tomb plus Sneak Attack plus Emrakul specifically. I don't care too much about getting whacked for 7. It's bad, but it's not the end of the world. If I just play out Relic Warder, though, and my opponent just goes Show and Tell Omni, I die. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and nug this moon. There is a degree of risk involved with doing that. And I've already talked about the line that beats us if I do that, but, like, I'll accept it. I think I've got to take that off the battlefield so that for following turns I can be super, super safe. Well, here's part 1 of 3 for the setup that beats me for taking the line that I took. Oh, neat. Just living. So even if I play out my little cat friend, it's not actually lethal next turn. I've still got a 2-turn clock no matter what, so I'm not going to play out another card. I mean, the Sneak and Show matchup is full of medium choices. Like, the matchup's gotten much, much harder than it used to be. Due to my own Thalia attacks, I can't both play and equip that this turn. And in case anyone's wondering why I'm doing, like, pre-combat wastelands instead of, like, post-combat wastelands, I don't want my opponent to do something stupid like through the breach in a blocker or, you know, have mana to hardcast Force of Will if I decide to cast something. Not really about that life. So my opponent doesn't even get a chance to respond with any non-creature spell here because of, like, how Thalia interacts with Omniscience. Their stuff still costs 1, so I get them. Super rewarded for tutoring up Relic Warder in the early game this game, apparently. An opponent was trying to pay the costs here, so maybe they weren't sure how, like, Thalia and Omniscience worked together. I love Relic Warder. I think it is a sweet sideboard card. Been very pleased with its performance. You know, off and on for years, that card's been in my sideboard. I think it got noticeably better after Recruiter of the Guard was printed, though. I think before that, just like Council's Judgment and Disenchant were probably just better most of the time. All right, we have a solid hand. And our opponent has Mulligan. That's good for us. This is what I consider, like, New World classic D&T openers, where you get, like, turn 1 Aether Vial into turn 2 Chalice. Like, I've just been loving, loving, loving that sequence. Yeah, Gutshot the Bob, like, when you get to play your important 1-drop that you really can only play on turn 1, followed by what is arguably your best card to play on turn 2, it just feels amazing. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I really want to slam Chalice, but there's no world where I can let that Ancient Tomb come around the table. That is just in no way acceptable. It would let my opponent show and tell. It would let them potentially like sneak attack as well. Not safe. Nice. So note, Chalice on 1 is not game over versus their deck, because their win conditions are at higher CMCs. What do I see myself doing? I see myself holding up mana on my turn into their turn, so I can hold up both path and equipment activation. I probably just want to draw some more cards and try to get towards some other disruptive element, because just the Chalice is not going to be enough. So I'm going to grab my sword here. So I thought I was holding up for sword, but that's a pretty good draw. All right, and it resolved. So I get to choose either Sneak Attack or Grizzlebrand here. Both are fine names. I'm probably more worried about my opponent, like, playing Sneak Attack and trying to activate in the same turn. Because if they had the Sneak Attack, they might not just, like, immediately play it out if they couldn't also activate it in the same turn. So I'm going to name Sneak. And I am fine with just ticking the vial up to 4. Little punished for doing so, but that's fine. So I can go 3, 4, 5, 6. I can play my Jailer now and start drawing cards with it, or I can save it to just, like, stop any creature from coming in, which I'm also fine with. So if I hit my opponent for 5, it puts him to 14. If I put in the sword, the next turn I can swing for 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, potentially. Yeah, I'm going to Chalice on 0 this turn. I wanted to wait a turn to see if it was just going to get, like, blown up, but that didn't happen. And note, I feel like I'm in a good enough position where I don't need to, like, play Palace Jailer in order to go and just, like, try to leverage the game as much as possible in my favor by drawing extra cards. Like, I've got the board presence I need and the pressure I need, where I don't need to just, like, slam that and try to draw into something else. Well, my opponent mulled to 5 there, right? Like, they mulled to 5 and, like, just kind of flooded out. And that happens sometimes. But happy to start off with a win there. I haven't been keeping a ton of data recently just because, like, I've just been playing a bunch of different decks rather than all D&D all the time. But we're not living in the world where this is like a 70-30 matchup in favor of D&D anymore. Well, we're playing against Jarvis. I don't remember what he's playing, so I'll just whack the keep button. My hand's fine. Oh god, I think he was playing Elves. I would keep this hand versus Elves, by the way. So there's a lot of ways to play out that turn. I'm going to try to make him stumble in the initial turns and just kind of like reset the game. The ideal world is like where I get to like play Ether Vial out and just like sit back and be super safe. But I don't think I'm going to get to live in that world. I think Jarvis is playing Progenitus in his deck, or at least he was talking about Progenitus earlier today in our stream, or not our stream, one of our like high-end grinder chats. And if he has Progenitus, I'm just going to die super quickly if I let him get to 4 mana. So I'm going to try to avoid that. Interesting. So what that indicates to me is that he might actually be just trying to like do a glimpse chain this turn. If he's not going to like play literally anything out, he might just go like glimpse, mana dork, birch lore, tap, go. But in case he doesn't actually have anything, I don't think I can play around it. Yep. All right. So there's the exact sequence I thought was going to happen. The second Metal Sentinel is devastating, by the way. Good God. This is probably about the point where I'll just concede to save us both time. But if he misses, it's great. If he casts one more creature, I will concede. I'm getting bored. Just like drawing 3 every time just means that like we're either not going to get out from under it or we'll be relatively dead by the time this actually happens. All right, Chalice, Ballista, Prelate in. I think he's playing Progenitus, so I'm going to bring Council's Judgment in, whereas normally I would not do that. Will consider Path, but won't be happy to play Path. We'll see where our numbers work out. All right. Jailer, pretty bad. Thalia's pretty bad. Those will be our first cuts. Hallowed Spirit Keeper, probably very mediocre here. You know, not getting through. Probably not dying either to just make a whole bunch of 1/1s trade with Elves. Like, that's not really where I want to be. Well, I mean, one side gets to play Magic. The other side, well, you saw what happened. You know how this goes. Julian, thank you very much for your continued support. Also, how does it say you have 23 months in a row? We'll allow it. I'm not gonna play Leon in Relic Order for random things like Library. You don't win this matchup by like fighting cards like that. If anything, I'd be kind of inclined to like cut one random piece of equipment and go down in that regard. And then everything from here is kind of medium. Like, my entire deck is kind of medium against it, but like you don't super want to like cut a bunch of flyers. I will cut one, but I've got like Double Crusader to punch through. And then maybe I won't just play the second path. Yeah, I also don't want to overload on 1-drops because like I am playing Chalice, and it's something that I really, really, really want to resolve in this matchup. This has to be a mulligan. Like, even though it has Ballista, which is nice, I just don't... I don't have a creature to take advantage of this Jitte, and I don't have white mana. This is just, like, way too risky. His hand is not good, but I'll keep it. It got a lot better there. Yeah, if you want to have game versus Elves, you need to interact early and often. Not one or the other. Both. So I have Stoneforge on the top of the library, which I just want to cast. So I'm okay with taking that off the table. I could play this one a little more patiently and, like, wait and try to get multiple creatures with, like, Walking Ballista, or, like, wait till I could play Ballista and Source the Plowshares in the same turn. But my plan is, like, have the 4th land to get Jitte counters active, and I want to use Walking Ballista as my next speed bump. Yeah, I mean, I've said this plenty of times, but D&T has gotten some just, like, crazy good tools in the last couple of years. Okay. gonna try to offer to trade my Stoneforge for one of those creatures. I don't think that trade's gonna work. So I can just play out Walking Ballista as a Rattlesnake, which I don't mind. I don't want to just play out Jitte, because playing it out would mean that, like, a Reclamation Sage or Abrupt Decay or something like that could destroy it, so I'm not comfortable doing that. I'll just hope to draw the 4th land, which I'm somewhat likely to do. If I just play out Walking Ballista, I can't necessarily actually stop my opponent going, like, elf, elf, make 3 mana, because, like, there's a world where, you know, they have Cradle, and, like, Wirewood can just, like, bounce this in response. So I'm actually going to use this time to just, like, revoke Heritage Druid. And then pass. If I draw a land, I'm totally fine with playing Walking Ballista for 2, rather than just, like, trying to get immediate Jitte counters by, like, naming Wirewood Symbiote here. Yeah, drawing the Ancient Tomb to get that turn 3 Jitte equip would have been spicy. Alright. So that's not bad. So note, I can't connect with Jitte this turn, because my opponent would just use either Wirewood and an Elf, or Quarian Ranger and Dryad Arbor in order to bounce that. So we will just play out a Death Machine. So the Heritage Druid has been returned. Sure. I mean, that's fine. Not going to attack in with the Revoker here. Again, a turn or 2 down the line, I've got, like, the Jitte coming in to solve my problems. I just want to not die in the interim. So if I just ping Quarian Ranger, I eliminate potential mana for, like, Gaia's Cradle, or I potentially prevent my opponent from having a creature to natural order for. So I'm going to see if my opponent Abrupt Decays my Revoker here. Two different people with usernames based on Jarvis's name have followed during this match. So thank you for following, folks, I suppose. Hope you're potentially enjoying watching both sides of this matchup at the same time. So I'm just trying to like think about what he's doing here. He bounced the Heritage Druid, which may mean that like he values it very, very, very highly. And didn't want it to die to Ballista. But in order for me to really care that he has the Heritage Druid right now, the remaining couple of cards in his hand have to be absolute gas. Like I have Jitte equip, swing in coming up. So I think I am going to fear 4 mana natural order more than I'm going to fear like land glimpse, Nettle Sentinel, Heritage Druid sort of thing. But we'll see if I get punished for doing this. I do not. Opponent could have another Abrupt Decay and punish me for this, but I'm 100% taking this line. Abrupt Decay on the Stoneforge rather than the Jitte seems a little bold to me. But maybe the natural order is just in hand already and it doesn't matter. No, the Rex Sage is. Okay. Lord Darkview, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. It's turn 6 and I'm still alive. This is going great. Yeah, I mean, like this is the nature of an absolutely terrible matchup, right? When you go and play against something that's this bad, even when you draw like 3 of your best cards in the first couple of turns, sometimes it's just not enough. Yeah, I blinked it. I wanted to give it vigilance. 4 more Aethersworn Canonists would improve a lot. So Canonist and Chalice compete for the same spots in the sideboard, just kind of in case someone isn't familiar with how that works. This is probably the point where I remove that Heritage Druid. I don't want to let my opponent accidentally green sun for something big and stupid. Yep, opponent could have definitely green sun for something big and stupid. Will not take a trade here. I don't need to. I bored out my Sword of Fire and Ice. I believe I did, right? Yep, that's fine. I can just get Batterskull and be totally fine with not losing to the aggro side of Elves. Also, just like putting the Batterskull on the Flickerwisp 2 turns from now is totally a fine play. Alright, here is the super annoying Wirewood Elvish Visionary engine. One of the sort of maybe under-respected by newer players engines of Elves, but I think it is incredibly powerful. I'm frequently more scared of just like this combo than I am just some of the actual win conditions. Note, I will need to be careful about how I use this Batterskull, because I'm going to need to leave up 3 mana so that it just doesn't get Rex Sage bounced. Or otherwise, I need to just, like, use it to get a kill shot on my opponent. Alright, so here's a glimpse. Let's see what happens. The second Jitte is, like, leagues worse than the first Jitte. Like, the first one is a tutor target. The second one you would, like, so rarely actually want. The decks that want to run a second Jitte are the sort of decks that can, like, go and, like, just play it out early off of things like Ancient Tomb. Note, 100% not conceding unless my opponent actually kills me, because, like, with a land... Oh, that's bad. I assume I'm actually dead to that. I haven't done the math, but it's big numbers. Green Sun for X equals 8 for good measure. I respect that. I can't even give his creatures protection from green to troll. So note, if we made it around to my turn, like, end of turn I put in Batterskull, I go 5 mana equipped to Flickerwisp, I give Sanctum Prelate pro green, and then I have lethal. Alright, lost to Elves as expected there. Sometimes you can get some easy wins versus like the sloppy Elves players, but even those you still have to work for, and you still have to get pretty lucky. We're looking at a great opening hand here. We're looking at a good opening hand here. We're, almost certainly losing the Aether Vial here. Although, if my opponent is like some combo deck, there is a world where they take Thalia instead. Initial guess is that my opponent is going to be on like green-black depths of some nature. Nope. A bug deck? Neat. I wonder if my opponent knows what year it is. Because bug decks haven't been very popular in probably at least a year, if not more. Like, kind of, Culligan's Command in, like, check pile Grixis Control came along and really, I won't say invalidated, but sort of, like, lowered the upside of playing Bug. All right. So we're playing against like some sort of like honest to goodness like Bug Leovold deck, just like value cards. So lots of ways to play this turn. I can just like Stoneforge for a Batterskull because bug decks historically have a huge amount of trouble beating that. I can just like play Flicker Wisp and try to like just clock my opponent in 4 turns with that. I'm looking at the Swords to Plowshares in my hand, and I'm wondering whether or not I actually want to cast that this game. If I play Stoneforge, then I probably do want to Swords to Leovold. If I don't play Stoneforge, then I might just like play Flicker Wisp, Flicker Wisp my Wasteland them, and try to 4-turn clock them with Flicker Wisp while they potentially can't cast an answer. The longer this game goes, the more value they get out of the library, but they can't necessarily draw too many more cards anyway. I don't think I can give up my land just due to my own mana situation here. My opponent does not have Force of Will. They were certainly F6 there. I'll get a Batterskull, and I'll pass the turn. I'm not going to just like immediately remove this Leovold, because if I'm going to let them draw a card, I don't want to do it now. I don't want to give them more opportunities to find a removal spell for Stoneforge or a piece of discard to invalidate my Batterskull. Dr. Bill, it is possible my opponent is playing Food Chain. Like, all these cards very well could fit into Food Chain. So I think I will go ahead and remove the Leovold. Long term, I see myself doing this anyway. Night, Julian. Yeah, they missed a land drop. But I don't really think that I want to wasteland them. Because, like, this Sylvan Library is going to find them land. And I don't have a guarantee that I am going to get land. I think the combination of, like, this sword plus Batterskull will take over this game. I'm okay with sort of, like, competing with Library in terms of card advantage and value. I think I can do that right now. Interesting attack. Does that just mean more Strix? Or Deluge? Yeah, Deluge is fine. So here I'm just going to get something that I can play to the board. There's plenty of different cards that you could get with Recruiter of the Guard, but I just want to mitigate the power of multiple removal spells right now. Again, feeling pretty good about my late game with the cards that I have access to, and my opponent's life total is relatively low. So just having any threat backed up by Mom is probably great right now. Like my line's fine, but you can like get Thalia, so you can play Thalia and Remorseful Cleric on the next turn. You can go and get Hallowed Spirit Keeper, because if it dies, it would just create a token army, which is probably very difficult for this deck to answer. Really, really don't like my opponent's line here because it's going to put them almost dead. Like, they know I have Sword of Fire and Ice, so unless they have Force of Will blue card, this is a super punishing situation for them, which they do not. I don't think they realized that the Assassin's Trophy was going to let me do that. I think they looked at my lands in play, went 4, yep, I'm safe, and went from there. Sure, I'm very well suited to beat that at this point. That's fine. Lily on a pre-ponder doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's very possible he could have found something better to do than just the Lily. I mean, I say just the Lily, but, you know. All right. So I can play Recruiter of the Guard and any 2-drop target, or I can play Recruiter of the Guard plus Thalia. Either one of them represents lethal next turn. I can also just jam Palace Jailer and, like, ride out that card advantage, but I think I want multiple bodies in play this turn. We'll start with the Thalia. If something's going to get forced, I want it to be that because this cantrips. This will replace itself. Yep, there we go. That's fine. Now I play the Recruiter. And this is where I either get Mirran Crusader or Hallowed Spirit Keeper. Mirran Crusader will be like borderline unkillable other than like Liliana Edict. But in case my opponent goes like Removal Spell and Liliana Plus, I think I want to get my Hallowed Spirit Keeper. Just because like that'll play around the cards that are on board a little bit better. And note, we're intending on discarding the Swords to Plowshares to the Liliana. Plus, we do not want to give my opponent life at this stage. Right now, any creature equipped with Sword is lethal. If my opponent fetches at all this game, then literally a Mother of Runes pecking them is lethal too. Did they draw him? All right, that's an annoyance. So they kind of drew perfects there. Like, him plus removal spell plus Lily is very, very good. So they're in an okay situation now. I can take them off of blue for Jace, so I will do that. Liliana being a bit of a nuisance here. We've used 2 of our 3 recruiters. Top of the opponent's library was pretty hot. So note, I do need to play this out. I have, like, literally no choice in the matter about that. It is just going to, like, take the edict, but if I don't, so be it. It's not all that important. Like, all I need to do is draw another creature off the top and have my opponent blank for 1 turn. And I'm in an awesome position. So, like, for example, they'll Lily minus kill my Crusader, but if I draw, like, literally any idiot off the top, I equip it with the sword, then this Lily doesn't do anything. This Lily can't edict this turn. So I just need to not whiff. Yes, that is correct. All those cards were just on top of my opponent's library. Yeah. So if you look, like, they have not fetched at all since they started drawing well. Like, the Sylvan Library is still helping them, like, draw them in the correct order, but that's fine. Is it too much to ask for my opponent to just whiff once? At some point, there's got to be just 3 lands on top. And now this doesn't do anything. My opponent will just ultimate that, and I die. That's very unfortunate. I don't feel like my opponent played well that game. I think they made some clear sequencing mistakes that were punishing. But, you know, here we are. All right, Ballista good. Council's Judgment good. Sanctum Prelate is a little bit awkward. Putting it on 3 can shut off some very, very powerful cards, but, like, the bug decks tend to have a very good sort of, like, range of converted mana costs, so, like, Prelate and Chalice aren't stellar against them. And I'll definitely play Cataclysm and maybe board a 2nd Jailer. It's just, like, a great way to recoup card advantage after, like, hymns and such. It's a little risky in the face of Baleful Strix, so, like, I may or may not play the 2nd, but it's something to consider. So against these sorts of decks, a lot of times you want to cut some number of your X1 creatures in order to hedge against, like, various sweeper effects, such as, like, Toxic Deluge, Dread of Night, stuff of that nature, Marsh Casualties. So I'll probably cut the Remorseful Cleric. I'll probably end up like trimming a Flicker Wisp. I'll probably trim the Sanctum Prelate. I'll probably trim at least one Mom. From here it gets a touch trickier. Like, the Flicker Wisps are sort of medium value cards because, like, blanking your own stuff is really cool and all, but there's not too many targets on the other side of the battlefield. And it just, like, lines up very poorly against Baleful Strix. I don't know how deep I want to go on trimming Mom, because, like, when I'm on the play, it's still fine. Oh. I was wondering why I felt like I needed so many cuts. No, Spirit Keeper's insane. I definitely want that. Yeah, I forgot to, like, board out Swords to Plowshares. I'll probably keep one Swords to Plowshares just to, like, add some value towards Palace Jailer. Oh, I guess I can keep two if I don't really want to play Sanctum Prelate. That's fine. No, that was just, like, me derping for a minute there. This is keep and hope that my Vial doesn't get forced, but this hand is so good. Great, Vial didn't get forced. Best draw off the top would probably be Port. Now, you don't want to play Sanctum Prelate for just, like, randomly stopping one of your opponent's cards. Like, you want to play Sanctum Prelate in matchups where, like, you put it on a number, and that number, like, significantly decreases their chances of winning. What do you want to Swords to Plowshares out of the opponent's deck? Most of the cards that you would Swords to Plowshares are, like, sources of card advantage for them in one way or another. So, like, we don't necessarily want to use single target removal against, like, Baleful Strix or Leovold, right? It just feels bad. Super happy to draw Port here, by the way. I don't think opponent has him. They would just, like, play it out. They would have, like, played it last turn. It's also nice that they don't have Abrupt Decay, or aren't casting an Abrupt Decay on my Vial, which means I will just get to put Crusader in uncounterably. Gideon, this is game 2 against them. We know they're a bug mid-range deck. This is a great opportunity for a Vial bluff, by the way, but my opponent is just F6, so they don't respect that. Good to know. See, like, if I had a Thalia when I did that Vile Bluff last turn, you should have done that then. Like, very, very clear error. I guess, never mind. I'm not going to speculate how deeply they're thinking. It might, because, like, there's a real argument that if I had a Thalia, I already would have put it in. All right. It seems like a poor use of that card. If you just like try to wait a little bit longer, you could probably kick it and wipe my entire board. But I don't know what all they have, so. Well. Alright, opponent having true name is very annoying because, like, no matter what I port them off of, they can do that this turn. So I'll port them off of green. Note, I can't port them off of, like, black. I also don't know that that's a good Assassin's Trophy. Alright, if they have an edict, it's fine. But it really seems like just like jamming the true name in play to stop the Crusader is just better. Hello, hello. I also don't think you play out a land this late into the game. Interesting. Oh, all right. I made an error. My opponent pitched the true name to Force of Will, which seems insane. That one's on me. So all I need to do is like hit another creature here to just like force them to like remove the board with Lily. How does my opponent do this? 2 games in a row where like when Hellbent they drew like Lily into Lily. I don't really think porting accomplishes anything. So I'm going to go ahead and equip my Palace Jailer and force them to use this Lily on an Edict in order to like actually take the Jailer off the board. No shuffle with the Ponder. Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Batterskull here to present two separate bodies, hoping that it forces my opponent to Jace minus on one of these, Lily plus on the other, and that they like draw a blank. So the other card... Well, this is kind of ridiculous, chat. 2, 4, 6, 7. I have 7 mana. I can play Jitte. Alright, so let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. An opponent will obviously get an Abrupt Decay so that they can answer the sword, then, like, Lily kill this. Because that's how this game is going so far. Alright, technically I was wrong. Again, opponent sequencing is all sorts of weird. And they drew Snapcaster Mage, too. Alright, how does this read again? Alright, so I can cast Council's Judgment for 3 mana, then cast Walking Ballista. So I can go 3 mana Council Judgment, 2 mana for Walking Ballista. So 3 mana Council Judgment, 2 mana for a Walking Ballista for X equals 1, 2 mana for Sword Equip 1, then ping the Lily down and get rid of the Lily without making them draw cards. I would leave them with Jace, which I don't love. So alternatively, I could just, like, give them a card or two with Leo and go Council's Judgment Jace, cast Walking Ballista, equip it, kill Lily, and just, like, removing the Planeswalkers might just be better, and just, like, leave myself in a time of full safety. So I can go 3 mana, 2 mana, equip, kill Lily, give them 1 card for doing so. Well, I'm going to kind of hope that we draw something between 2 cards that can beat a, like, Snapcaster. I guess there is the Monarch status to consider. This is an interesting turn. So, I'm going to change my mind on how I'm going to do this. So, let's get rid of Leovold. Then I'll cast the Ballista. Then I'll equip the Ballista. Then I'll kill the Lily. Oh, that's pretty okay. So we'll see what my opponent does with their Snapcaster Mage. All right. Opponent confirmed bad. This could like very easily just be Snapcaster Assassin's Trophy. Assassin's Trophy the sword, which in process turns Walking Ballista into a 0/0, giving them a 2-for-1. Not land, please. Alright, so which one anyway? 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 8 in order to play and return Batterskull in the same turn. I'm going to lose the Monarch this turn, which sucks. But this might be a time where I just, like, Cataclysm and hope to draw better than they do. Because, like, if I Cataclysm, at end of turn, I'll be left with piece of equipment of my choice, plus Vial, plus 1 land, and they'll just be left with, like, land Baleful Strix. Or I can, like, bounce the Batterskull to my hand and not play the Aether Vial this turn. It's not that bad. Like, it's bad, but it's not that bad. What do you mean I'd go for Strip to 1 mana? I don't understand. Oh, you mean cast Cataclysm. Sorry, I thought you were, like, referring to Strip Mine. Alright, so I don't think I'm going to get back to 5 mana for Batterskull. So, like, I think I'm fine with letting that card go so that I can put Aether Vial in this turn. If I draw, like, a 2 or a 3-drop and I don't draw lands, I really need to be able to put that into play. So, I will keep a land. And my opponent's going to get to keep 2 creatures, so there's a world where I just, like, keep the Jitte so that any creature I get will trade with both of their creatures. But Sword of Fire and Ice is, like, something that will dig me back into the game faster. So I'm going to keep this. I don't want them to, like, get into a world where they can just, like, repeatedly chump block and keeping me from taking the Monarch back. Not going to wasteland them. Definitely have, like need to have the mana to equip whenever I draw a creature. Also, opponent has drawn 2 lands off the top after losing like 6-ish lands to Cataclysm. So that's kind of impressive. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't actually know how many of their lands really are lands. If they're not lands, my opponent shouldn't be playing them and should be holding them to try to brainstorm them back. I'm going to tick this up for Flicker Wisp reasons. All right. Well, that was easy. Don't think I'm going to change anything about how I sideboarded. I would consider Sanctum Prelate now. Either my opponent is drawing like incredibly hot and drawing those like back-to-back Lilies this game, or my opponent actually just has like 8 Lilianas in their deck or something insane. But like putting this on 3 on the draw is pretty bad, so I'm gonna whack submit like this. I have a fair but solid hand, and my opponent has mulliganed, so that's great for me. Scrying to the bottom. All right, they did not lead on turn 1 Thoughtseize for like the 3rd game in a row, so that's good. Hopefully we don't get hemmed and lose both Thalia and Stoneforge. Great. All right. I like my odds this game then. I am going to play Caracas this turn in case I draw a Wasteland next turn, because I would love to Wasteland plus Stoneforge. No attack seems weird there, because, like, Thalia has first strike. But we'll see what's going on. So that feels to me like maybe Toxic Deluge. Like, that's just like chump block, protect the life total, sweep the board of whatever you play. So both our cards cantrip. But I think I'm going to play Stoneforge so that I can hold up Caracas. Recruiter for Jailer, you say? That's tempting. Because if my opponent goes, like, Land Deluge, I go Jailer. And then I have, like, Stoneforge plus X available. But I'm just going to Stoneforge. I just smell Deluge, and I don't really want to lose my Thalia. Smelled the wrong card. Yeah, opponent's curve is very interesting. I expect opponent will blow Deed for 3 during my combat step on my turn. In which case, I get to slam Jailer on an empty board, and I feel great about that. I'll also get to, like, bounce my Thalia and play Jailer. Oh, shit. Do it. So I can just slam Jailer. But, like, this is... my opponent is, like, basically 100% to pop the Deed. So I think I'll just go ahead and pass here. Well, like, we drew the Deed, and our opponent is, like, perhaps playing questionably. So, like, that also helps. So, like, I get to bounce this Thalia. Then I get to activate my Stoneforge, which will put this Batterskull into play. I know the Germ's going to die, but I'm going to be left with a Batterskull in play, making every creature for the rest of the game just, like, a far greater threat, and making a Flicker Wisp off the top absolutely disgusting. Sure, that's fine. If only you had, like, cracked Deed for 5 to not let me do a clearly telegraphed line. Yeah, I did not know that Freyalise was on Pernicious Deed. I didn't even know that like Freyalise existed when Pernicious Deed was printed. Do you have another deed? No, that's annoying though. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Jay says last card. How does this happen? Like every time. We lose like by my opponent like drawing like something insane off the top. Like, all right. So opponent is going Lily minus. They hit Leovold. Okay. Don't care about Baleful Strix. Don't care about land. So my opponent has one card left. I can keep doing this like Thalia bounce thing, but like Mirran Crusader should just be lethal on this turn. So I think I'm going to go ahead and like sack the Thalia. Let's see if opponent drew like Edict off of their Strix draw. All right, so they're dead on board. Opponent says, congrats on your draws. He gets a lol. Uh, that's adorable. So now that I have some more people here, I just want to reiterate some things I said at the beginning of this stream. I've got some new artwork for the stream coming in. I've got my friend Gail working on something. We got a super cute Thalia sketch in the works. B, Cardboard Live now has like the ability to buy cards and give commissions to a streamer. So for example, if you wanted to buy a card that was in my D&T deck list, you could click on the card and it will link you to Card Kingdom, where you can like go and buy it, and then I get kickbacks for you buying cards. C, Cardboard Live now has a bot where you can go and type !card, then a card name, and Cardboard Live will whisper you the details of that card. I would like to play first. We're going to keep a medium 7-card hand. So this is a hand that's like fine against a fair deck, but like does basically nothing against a combo deck. Like having like Swords of Plowshares for a Delver into Stoneforge into Crusader is a fine sequence. Yeah, like I love the work that the folks at Cardboard Live are doing. You know, I've said things like this many times, but I think they are the future of Magic. Like having Cardboard Live for my stream has just made so much of my like day-to-day streaming things so much better. All right. Thought sees me. Whatever my opponent is doing, this Thalia off the top is probably sick. Off of just like Swamp Thoughtseize, it's a little hard to tell, but this is probably good against it. They've taken the Swords to Plowshares, which might mean they're like some sort of depths deck. Yeah. Would I offer the trade of Thalia for Vampire Hexmage? Unclear. I think I'm fine with that trade. I think I just want to like clock my opponent ASAP, and then like every turn after this one try to leave Caracas up. But it's possible that not attacking with Thalia is just correct. Opponent was unwilling to make the trade, so great. And we'll just play out Crusader. It's pro-black, and again, we kind of want to have an aggressive clock with some degree of backup. So now they are representing like crop rotation for like a wasteland effect. So there is a world where they just go like crop rotation for wasteland, wasteland my Caracas. And I'll just lose. I can prevent this for one turn by doing something really weird and main phase 1 Rashaden Port Urborg. If I do that, they can't crop rotation, or no, they could crop rotation for Wasteland and then just hold the Wasteland until the end step and still do it. So I can't beat that. So because I can't beat that, I should just play as if they do not have it. Yeah, almost worked. Not quite, though. Yes, I will be playing out a Stoneforge Mystic to present lethal next turn. 100%. I cannot give them more time. Although it appears they've gone to get a pizza out of the oven or something. So, chat, what do you want to talk about? Well, Mike 1015 does whatever Mike 1015s do. I think I'm going to try to play some Cleric Stumpy tomorrow, by the way. Matt Soul's list looks pretty sweet. So I'm not going to be able to do my normal Saturday stream because I'm going to Greensboro for the weekend. So I think when I get off of work tomorrow, I'm just going to like come home and try to get in like a pre-dinner league. How does the list feel? List feels fine. I'd be comfortable playing something within a card or two of this in a tournament, unquestionably. You know, when it comes down to it, the last 2 or 3 slots in Death and Taxes are just kind of like a guess of what do you think you're going to play this exact tournament. What are you hedging against? So I'm going to do something that might look wrong, but is totally intentional. I'm going to tap Rashaden Port, which decreases some of my flexibility, but it potentially looks like I am holding up like both, like a Caracas activation and a Swords of Plowshares if somehow like the Thalia leaves the table. Alright, and we die. GG. Hey, Mike, I'm really glad to hear that. Like, as someone who's, you know, a teacher and really sort of interested in, like, helping people improve, like, it means a lot. Alright, so, Prelate, good. Path, good. Surgical, playable, but may or may not come in. I'll probably play Relic Warder for random things like Sylvan Library and Mox and random Bitter Blossoms, things of that nature. And probably play Council's Judgment and Palace Jailer. Would consider Walking Ballista as well, just as something that can go and kill like Vampire Hex Mages or Sylvan Safekeeper. I don't know whether or not like this will actually make it or not, but I'd consider it. All right. So what do I want to board out? I'm generally of the opinion that you should cut or heavily trim the Stoneforge Mystic package in matchups like this one. The real merit to the Stoneforge package is being able to gain life and going over 20 to survive a Merit Lodge hit. But generally speaking, Stoneforge Mystic ties up a lot of your mana and is bad against the 8-ish pieces of discard that they're going to be playing. So I don't really know that that's where you want to be. So I usually cut or heavily trim that package. Luckily, one of our flex slots is a flyer, which is a huge boon here. And our other flex slots punch through black and green creatures, or can produce a whole bunch of bodies. Whether or not I want to go for like the Hallowed Spirit Keeper gamble is another question. So like, if it manages to die because like your opponent attacks in with a Vampire Hex Mage and you get to like block it, excuse me, and you get to block it and you get to like make a bunch of spirits, like your opponent probably isn't winning. But that's like a weird amount of setup that goes into that. And most of the core of this deck is just good against depths. Like we kind of got that time, and that's okay. That occurs. But like I very much like the cards that we have for the matchup. I think I'm gonna whack Submit without Hallowed Spirit Keeper. But this card's like borderline. So Relic Warder is for some of the random sideboard cards they have that can be a little bit rough. You know, we can see things like Pithing Needle, Bitter Blossom, Sylvan Library. This is a fine hand. Like basically any hand that's going to start with a Vial in this matchup is going to be stellar. Like cheating on mana is awesome. We have a little bit of mana denial, we have a little bit of disruption, we have removal for a Merit Lodge, we have a way to find another great card. Yeah, Mike. So, Mike, assume the answer is like 2 or 3, probably from discard rather than from being killed. If you make 2 or 3 spirits that can jump block Merit Lodge, that's a long time. Like that's like basically forever in like terms of this matchup. Yeah, so you've got to remember that a lot of times Thoughtseize has to take things like Flicker Wisp or Thalia or Revoker. So like those are going into the graveyard. Now this time it'll just like probably take Swords to Plowshares, but you know, it's not always the case. All right. I'm glad I drew a land. That simplifies some of my decision trees a little bit. If I didn't draw a land, there's a world where I just like port my opponent instead of playing out the Revoker. But because I drew the Revoker, I can just like play land Revoker on Hex Mage this turn, and then next turn I can Recruiter for a 2-drop and Violet in. Oh, we're going up removal spells. Absolutely going up. All you need to do is not die to Merit Lodge. The one mana removal spells make your opponent jump through hoops. Decay on the Vial shows a lot of respect for the long game here. Lots of ways to play this turn here. I'm going to Recruiter for Flicker Wisp and try to keep a Flicker Wisp in my hand for the rest of the game. Instead, you can just like play Crusader and like try to get aggressive so that next turn you can like Recruiter plus some other card. Bob's pretty good. I will gladly trade either one of these cards for Bob if my opponent wants to make that trade. Bob's very good. They respect that Bob is in fact good. Get to blink my own Recruiter here. Go to the end step, use the ability, yes. And this time I will go ahead and just get Palace Jailer. I want to take Bob off the table. And just like, Palace Jailer Bob sounds great. Also doesn't get hit by Inquisition, which is super convenient. Now my opponent knows I have the Caracas, which is a little inconvenient, but it is what it is. So I think I'm actually going to remove the Sylvan Safekeeper here, rather than the Bob. I think this might incentivize my opponent to sacrifice a land. Yes. I'm still the Monarch, though, so I've got that going for me. How much do I want to attack for? I'll probably just attack with one creature. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe I'll attack in with the Recruiter as well. If my opponent attacks in with both of their creatures, am I okay with trading both of my creatures for their board? Not particularly, but if my opponent attacks in with both creatures, they lose Sylvan Safekeeper, which then means that I can beat a Merit Lodge. But just attacking in with one's probably good enough. I'm not going to like sweat the single points of damage here. Sure. Farish, let me restate that. If my opponent attacks in with both creatures, I want to block both, right? I don't want to give them the Monarch status. So, like, what that means for me is that I would be forced to block with Revoker, potentially, like, allowing them to... This is actually not all that bad. Or at least not as bad as it looks. So I get to, like, bounce this. My opponent will sack their Urborg. Then they're out of mana. So now I get to play a Mom. And I don't have good attacks here. But I get to like go to my end step. Where if I draw like a 1-mana removal spell, well, this is fine too. This will accomplish the same thing. Unless my opponent goes like land Thoughtseize me. That would be inconvenient. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't exactly understand. That was still a game of Magic. I didn't have that one 100% locked up. I'm not going to think too much about that. I'm just going to whack the submit button here. Maybe opponent like thought my Mother of Runes was already active or something. I don't have mana. I'm going to mulligan this one. I'm going to mulligan this one. This hand is abysmal, but I need to keep it. I will bottom that. Despite Flickerwisp being very, very good, I need something that I can do in the early turns. This Recruiter is likely to get Thoughtseized away, and then I just have like nothing in the hand other than mana. Negator, I think that as well. Well, normally that would be fine, but it's pretty bad in the face of what's going on the other side of the battlefield. All right, so now I get to wasteland something. I don't know with how much patience I should play here. I can wasteland the Bayou and attempt to take them off of all colored mana, though that doesn't actually stop the combo side of things. I can just wasteland the Dark Depths now. I can just continue to port them, and I can just like upkeep port the Thespian stage. And then just like slam Jailer on my turn. Because presumably they don't know about the wasteland. Unless I am being ghosted, in which case, you know, well, whatever. Yes, because of Urborg. If they play Urborg, it's bad news bears for me. Because then Dark Depths taps for mana and they accelerate themselves. I kind of like just porting the stage. Well, I have to, like, tap mana to do that. So I can't hold up Wasteland and port. Yeah, so the hope is kind of that like by porting stage, we incentivize our opponent to go like Hex Mage crack it or something like that, so that we get him with Jailer. No, if I port the Bayou, I'm not playing around Thespian stage, or not Thespian stage, Urborg, which I think is huge. All right, this is why I did that on their turn rather than my turn. So now we have 6 removal spells plus Flicker Wisp plus Flyers to draw towards. Or we can just draw Caracas. That's fine too. Tom, because I messed up, I was sitting there thinking about um, crop rotation for not Urborg. I just like totally blanked on the math of that. I did not play that turn well. The second backup Caracas is solid. Certainly not sad to see that. I mean, like Lord Darkview, like at this point, like if they have a Sylvan Library and I don't play the Palace Jailer, like I'm gonna start to fall behind. I kind of think I'm being ghosted. Like unless they knew that I drew that Caracas, I don't know that that play makes sense. Like the Caracas is probably like long term more damning. Oh, I did not mean to do that. F2 should have let me take another action after that, but here we are. Yeah, I thought I hit F2 in my main phase so that I could like go to my end step, then draw the card that'd be put on the stack and I could do something. But I guess I like double tapped or something. I'm going to go to my end step, draw my card, and then see if I want to sword something. No, I think I'm going to play patiently here. I think the patient game favors me. Like, especially once I get Vial on 3. So now I will just like 100% lose this Source of Plowshares if I don't cast it. So I think I'm okay casting this on the Hex Mage, try to force their hand. They probably won't because like they have a Thespian stage too. But I should point this at something. It's possible I should just like throw it at the Bob, but I'm gonna point this at the Hex Mage, see what they do about it. Going off with Thespian stage will be much slower. Crop rotation's fine. Flow to white mana. So now I'll lose the Crusader, but I get to Caracas, bounce the Merit Lodge. The whether or not I'm being ghosted needle swings back towards not ghosted. Yeah, agreed. Now I'm probably comfortable using this path on the Bob. Getting it out of the way and sending in a love tap. Unsure, Lord Darkview. Unsure. Time to do Vile Bluffs. See if they like ripped counters off it with Vampire Hex Mage. No. Note, I'm playing this Jailer out very aggressively rather than just like holding it for Vile reasons, because if I tap a Vile at 4, like, and there's a Merit Lodge on the battlefield, like, this is going to rip the counters off my Vile, and I'm not going to actually get to do what I want to do. Alright. So if I hit my opponent for 3 this turn, then I can hit them for 5 next turn and just kill them. So this is like a very important turn to swing the mom. Sure. Okay. But I have Caracas. Ah, I see. So what could I lose to? I could lose to like a Rite of Consumption kill. Like tap 2, copy stage, derp 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 derp. All right. So we're 3-1 going into the last round. I'm going to go ahead and take a minute to use the restroom and refresh myself. I'm getting a little bit tired. I think I played a little bit sloppy that game, so I'm just going to try to shake it off. I will be right back. Alright, and I'm back. Hello folks, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy death and taxes, and that's what we're playing today. We're currently 3-1 going into the last round. We've already cashed. We'll see if we can make it into well worth our time instead of just kind of medium and breaking even. Hope you're enjoying tonight's content. I'm going to be back tomorrow at sort of an unusual time. It'll probably be around 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to try to jam a league with like the Cleric Stompy deck when I get off of work. Sort of a beautiful piece of work. I don't know that it's good. Like, I've never played this deck, but it's doing all the things that I want to be doing in Legacy, like casting Thalia and Chalice of the Void. So it certainly can't be that bad. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. So I've got a donation for some sort of weird Electro Dominance deck for next Monday. So that's in the queue. And then I think that's what I have stacked up currently. Sometime soon, hoping to have Max Torsion on as a guest. I'm in discussions, but haven't finalized any details yet. Opponent has recently played Grixis Delver and Miracles and Grixis Control. So we should assume they're playing a blue deck, and then keep our hand because it has Thalia in it. Of note, this hand is awkward if I don't draw a second white source, since I do have 3 white cards. But the potential to play Thalia on turn 2 versus a blue deck is, you know, you don't throw that back. Top with Preordain. Could just Wasteland, kind of reset the game. But I think I'm going to take the high upside play here of trying to resolve Thalia. That's fine. If I draw a 2-drop and I get to like Wasteland and play 2-drop, that's stellar for me. And again, trying to drag this one on a little bit so that I can draw into white. Ooh. This is sort of awkward because, like, if my opponent has another land, which they very likely do, if they have another land, then just, like, wastelanding them and doing nothing with my 2 mana for my turn is kind of awkward. But if I cast Recruiter and it resolves, then on the following turn I can play, like, a 2-drop and waste, which is strong. If I wasteland them and then they go like Land Delver or something, all of a sudden I'm like behind on curve. So I think I'm not going to go on the mana denial plan here immediately and just cast the Recruiter. I'm going to try to leverage my mana advantage. All right, so the Recruiter did not resolve, but I have 3 lands in play to their 0. I'm okay with that world. Gurmag Angler would be like the absolute worst here. Yep. Thank you for Schadenport. Nice. I got them to play a very awkward Brainstorm. Stoneforge is a fine draw. Not amazing, just fine. I feel like this is probably going to end up being a hard cast the Batterskull game after my Stoneforge gets bolted in upkeep. All right. The way that I've played out this game has not worked out well for me. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but it didn't work out. So, like, initially, I'm not going to go into it. I don't regret the lines that I took. They just didn't work. A Swords to Plowshares off the top is stellar. That's really what I'm looking for at this point. Nope, that does not do it. So we lost this one to not getting double white, which was a fear of the hand, but, you know, so be it. Gurmag Angler was basically the only threat that I was truly worried about that game. Like a Delver or a Young Pyromancer, you know, we probably could have beaten that out in time. So I'll probably bring in about 4 removal spells. You know, could consider Jailer, but it's kind of medium. Can consider Walking Ballista. It's okay, not great. Okay. I mean, it's considerably worse. It's worse by a lot. But if you're on a budget, you know, Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, I get it. All right, so I usually board Sanctum Prelate out in these matchups. You know, again, I'm relying very heavily on my 1-drops to stabilize the board from the big threats. If you have the tombs already, then like at least you have like some of the like true soul lands, and that's a great start. You know, try out your gemstone caverns, you know, at your local FNMs and stuff. But if you're gonna go to a big tournament, like find someone you can borrow them from. Yeah, Crystal Vein probably better than gemstone caverns. I agree with that. All right, so Sanctum Prelate out, Revoker out, and then we need to do a little bit of trimming after that. Palace Jailer kind of medium if we expect our opponent to like be playing like some number of like True Name Nemesis, or you know, maybe they have the Baleful Strix in the sideboard, or Young Pyromancer that can go wide of it. So that's only kind of medium. Probably trim at least 1 recruiter. Probably a 2nd recruiter. You kind of like really want to just like naturally draw the cards that you want to play, rather than tutor for them. If I didn't board in the Ballista, I'd probably keep 1 more recruiter. Well, this is unplayable. This is bad, but it has lands and spells, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to bottom that and hope to draw something better to do in the early turns of the game than what I have now. Right now, I'm just like going to be really soft to like a turn 1 blind flip Delver, because like I'm not really attacking in until turn 4. I have no removal. Yep, there we go. This is what I'm soft to. Hey, that's good. We're going to do this now. We get to play around like Daze and Spell Pierce and Fluster, I guess, by removing it now. So I'm going to play out Crusader first. If this gets like dazed or bolted, I would rather have the Flicker Wisp around afterwards. The Flicker Wisp can also like reset Delver. Marsh Casualties. I don't know that that's the card I would show me. I would show like literally any card other than that one. That would have been such a huge turn to draw a land, by the way. So I'm going to play Flicker Wisp here and just like blink the Delver, make them flip it again. If they were thinking ahead, like they can put 2 instants and sorceries in a row for Delver so that it flips 2 turns in a row for this sort of situation, but they didn't do that. Great for me. I also don't want to... Oh, wow, are they going to offer me that trade? Ooh. So Flicker Wisp is not long for this world because of Marsh Casualties. So this might be showing me that they don't have black-black. I'm not all that afraid of Young Pyromancer right now. Like, Jitte plus Crusader will deal with that, but I am scared of the Delver. This is like a who's the beatdown question. And I think I'm the control deck right now, just like hoping to like get my real win condition in play and take over the game. I'm going to accept this trade. Get my Crusader Vigilance here. This is a little punishing if they play like land into kicked Marsh Casualties. But I don't want to show this Jitte until the game is over. Yeah, my kingdom for that other land here. This is like super brutal days if that were to happen, by the way. Alright, so I take out a young Pyromancer. And then I get to crash in. Opponent chumps to protect their life total, goes down to 8. But then they're going to get the 2-for-1 with Marsh Casualties. I could have like played a Thalia to try to like make them get a 6th land, but I think the possibility of going like both Jitte and Thalia in the next turn are just so much better. Man, can I just like draw the 4th land? Like, please? Please, please, please? I will give up and just like cast the Jitte next turn. That's kind of where I'm at. Was really hoping to just like not show it, but I'm not gonna have that luxury. Yeah, but the 4th land would have allowed me to like play both Thalia and Jitte in the same turn, which would have like not given much advance time to do setup. Unfortunately, like now I'm just gonna like die to board. I guess I could have like not like just say like having a braid or something, or I take over the game. Need like a 1st strike creature. Batterskull good enough? Batterskull can block Gurmag Angler. Then I'll take 5. Yeah, I'm not dead. Alright. That's kind of a frustrating loss. I feel like I played that one fine, but just like everything did not break for me that set. Alright, deck list is fine. I'm happy with it. I'm not gonna do sort of a long extended debrief. I'm pretty tired and I'm just gonna call it a night. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm gonna go ahead and why don't we host Arkin and throw some viewers his way. If you enjoyed the content tonight, please consider doing something to support my channel, whether that's just something as simple as following or subscribing to the channel or doing a donation deck list. We have a relatively empty schedule for February, so I'd love to see some things that bits instead of 4th land. I'll take that. Sounds great, Gutshot the Bob. Anyway, we've got a relatively empty schedule for the tail end of the month here, so if you want to see something on stream, I'm happy to play that. In the next month here, look forward to maybe some matches with Maxtortion, and my next donation goal is some exhibition matches of D&T versus Phoenix versus Calum. So things to look forward to. Good night, folks. I'm going to go ahead and call it here.